Very welcome to the Racing Post Champions League preview. Over the next 25 minutes or so, grab yourselves a drink and relax after a hard day's networking and hopefully a successful day at ICE. And our expert panel will take you through some of the best bets, hopefully, and pick the winner of the great tournament which starts on Tuesday. So let's get the boys on. We've got two of the Racing Post's finest judges, Mr. Mark Langdon and James Milton. Disappointing lack of applause from the Racing Post colleagues. Thank you, chaps. Better. Okay, good. Right then, first up, let's remind ourselves with what's happened, because obviously Champions League has been in hibernation for a couple of months. I'll give you a show of betting. I'll run out of arms. Hang on. And then the boys will tell you who they fancy. So, the latest betting on the Champions League. Obviously, we're down to the last 16 stage. 7-2 favourites. Man City, Barcelona are 9-2. Juventus 13-2. PSG 7-1. Liverpool 8-1. Real 12s. Bayern Munich 14, Atletico 20, Tottenham 25, Borussia Dortmund 25, Man United 28, and it's 100-1 bar. Mark Langdon, if you had to name the winner at this point, who do you think you'd go for?
Well, I think in terms of the value, Bruce, I think you can make a case for Real Madrid because they've won it the last 3 years and 4 of the last 5. They've had their crisis already this season. This is their time of the year. You have a look at that squad. It's got Modric, you've got Casemiro and Cruz, you've got Varane and Ramos, Benzema, Vinicius has been absolutely brilliant in the last few games. Gareth Bale is back from injury. They've got Ajax in the last 16. I'm looking at their odds compared to those right at the top of the market, and I think Real Madrid, you know, if they play Barcelona, they're playing them tonight, and it's sort of 8-13, 6-5-ish to qualify. I think Real Madrid can go very well in this tournament.
The last I looked, they had an absolutely dreadful season. What's happened to make you fancy them all of a sudden?
Well, they've woken up. This is their time of the year. You know, they don't really care about La Liga. It's all about the Champions League. They had a really tough time with Lopetegui when he was coach. I also think that players like Modric, they took the first couple of months off. He'd obviously, you know, been playing in the World Cup final. Varane won that World Cup. I don't think he started very well. But now, they're a team that don't need to be coached. So Solari isn't very good, but Di Matteo wasn't very good, and he won it with Chelsea. I'm just looking at them up against, say, even the real front runners. I think it's a much tighter competition than the odds suggest.
James, who's your main fancy?
Again, on value terms, I'm going for Juventus, who were obviously smashed up in the betting at the start of the season, having signed Cristiano Ronaldo. And they've not really put a foot wrong since, particularly in Serie A. I mean, having said that, they did concede 2 goals to Gervinho, who Arsenal fans may remember with a certain degree of fondness in their last Serie A game. But other than that, you know, they've been absolutely terrific. And this is the time of the competition that Ronaldo really comes to life. I mean, you know, he's won the Golden Boot numerous occasions. He was, you know, scored back-to-back hat-tricks, I think, in the knockout stages a couple of seasons ago. And you know, with him in the side, I just think they pose a huge threat. They're a big price as well, because they've got an awkward-looking draw in the last 16 against Atletico Madrid, who are another side I really like, but Atletico have got so many key injuries at the moment. I'm not sure how many are kind of Godin and Costa and Savic and others are going to be back and fully firing for this tie. So I think it's a good time for Juve to be playing Atletico, and if they get past them, then I think they can sit back and enjoy Ronaldo and Dybala, and I think they could go deep.
Okay, let's look at some big prices. I mean, obviously, Real Madrid 12-1 is big, Mark. Is there anyone at a massive price you think could get semis and beyond?
I suppose probably the best of the real outsiders would be Lyon, around about 150, 175 to 1. They've got Barcelona, which is why they're that price, but this is a team that's outplayed Manchester City twice in the group stage, took 4 points off them. They beat Paris Saint-Germain on Sunday, first team in France to beat them, so we know they've got it in them. They remind me of the Monaco team of a couple of years ago that went very close to winning the Champions League, in the fact that they've got players like Aouar and Ndombele that are going to go for a lot of money in the near future. So it's sort of now or never for them. Barcelona is an obvious obstacle in the last 16, but that is factored into the price.
I've learned when Mark names these footballers I've never heard of, I have this special nod that's like, I've heard of him, but I haven't. But I'm sure I will, because Mark discovers these people before anyone else does. James, massive price, Champions League contender for you?
I mean, at the tie I'm looking at is probably Tottenham, Borussia Dortmund. You know, both exceeding expectations in the league. The only problem is trying to separate those two in the last 16. You know, they're both around the kind of 25, 28 to 1 mark. And the others, because I'm quite anti-PSG at the moment, I just think they have a sort of mental block when it comes to the knockout stages, not being past the quarterfinals despite that enormous spending since their takeover. You know, Manchester United absolutely buzzing. Well, I don't think they have the defensive quality to go all the way, but I'd certainly be backing them at kind of nearly 2 to 1 to get past PSG.
Okay, next up we'll look at the Golden Boot. I'll spin through the prices and try and remember how many goals they've all got. I think Lionel Messi has 6. He's the 15 to 8 favourite. Lewandowski leads the way with 8, and he's 5 to 2. Neymar's 8 to 1, but he's injured. How long's he out for, Mark?
Well, he's definitely missing both legs against Manchester United, and it could be longer.
Okay, Dzeko 16s, Dybala 20, Harry Kane 20, Aguero 20, and Mbappe is 20. Where's Ronaldo? 25 to 1 Ronaldo. Now, Mark, before we dismiss Ronaldo, who's only got 1 goal so far, you have very fond memories of him coming from a similarly hopeless position to win you a few quid, don't you?
Yeah, last season he nailed back-to-back hat-tricks when it was looking, you know, almost impossible for him to win it, and he does come alive, as James was saying, in the knockout stages. I think he's too far behind even Ronaldo this time. I mean, Atletico Madrid, there's not going to be many goals in that last 16 tie, I think it's fair to say. I mean, I have said that Lyon are, you know, a big price to maybe go far, but I think Messi, if you fancy Barcelona, I think Messi's a good bet, because I see Bayern Munich going out to Liverpool and Lewandowski probably not improving on that, and it looks a 2-horse race to me. And
James, any inspiration from you?
I think Messi's probably a good thing as well, actually. I think he's about 15 to 8 best price, and he's 2 behind Lewandowski. As Mark said, Bayern have got a tough last 16 tie, and Messi, I think, I'm expecting that tie with Lyon to be a really high-scoring game over the 2 legs, and Messi could fill his boot.
OK, let's look at the 4 Premier League clubs that have survived to the knockout stage. Rough prices on the longest surviving Premier League team. 1 to 3 City, 9 to 2 Liverpool, 8 Tottenham, and 16 Man U. Mark, I suppose City, the obvious ones in terms of who's going to go furthest. First of all, I know you've tipped Real Madrid is your main tip, but would it surprise you if a Premier League team wins this year?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I tipped Man City and Liverpool with the 2 at the start that I went for. I just think that the continued investment will eventually come good, and that they were like that sort of the golf club lout earlier on, Premier League teams that had maybe won the lottery. You know, they had all the gear but no idea. I think now with Guardiola and Klopp at the helm, that they are going places. City have got a penalty kick against Schalke. They'll definitely beat them. But I think Liverpool will beat Bayern, and then I see no reason why they can't go further than City. They matched them stride for stride in the Premier League. They eclipsed them last year in the Champions League. So I'd probably say Liverpool are the value there.
OK, and James, how about you?
Yeah, it's a tricky betting heat because City's tie. I think one firm have pushed Schalke out to 16 to 1 to qualify, which is just an incredible price at this stage. But I think the Premier League have got a really strong hand in it. I mentioned United, obviously resurgence under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Tottenham have exceeded expectations whenever questions are asked of them, and Liverpool, probably playing Bayern at a good time. Bayern seems to have gone a bit stale off the pace in the Bundesliga, so I'm not really giving an answer, but they could get to the semis.
That would be nice. Let's look at the ties, because like I say, the competition recommences on Tuesday. We've got Man United versus PSG, and we've got Roma versus Porto. So there's 2 ties per night. Unfortunately, they haven't staggered the kickoffs, both kicking off at 8 o'clock. Take us through your thoughts on Man U PSG, Mark.
I think it'll be a high-scoring game, even without Neymar. Both teams to score landed in all 6 of PSG's Champions League group stage matches, and I think it will again. United have got good quality up front. I just don't see Lindelof et al. Keeping out even a Neymarless PSG with Mbappe and Cavani. So I'd say both teams to score. The best bet there.
James?
I'm going for United to qualify. I think PSG, put 10 goals past Red Star Belgrade in the group, but they struggled against Liverpool and Napoli, and I think the way United are playing, I think particularly at home in the first leg, if they get a positive result there, you've seen their counter-attacking quality, and I think they could sneak through.
Okay, the other tie of the night is quite tricky. It's Roma v Porto. Roma roundabout evens to win that 5-2 Porto, and it's 12-5 to draw. Mark, you've got some in-depth, first-hand evidence. You were in Rome on Sunday, weren't you hipster?
Yeah, I was. I was at Rome Milan on Sunday. I thought Roma played pretty well and deserved to win the game. And I think if they play to a similar standard, they will beat Porto. Porto's top scorer, Marega, is likely to miss the game. They qualified from a very soft group. I think Roma at home, even though the crowd are against them at the moment, I think they'll win.
Okay, there's a couple of lads from our finance team here thinking that cheeky bastard's not claiming this on expenses.
It wasn't on expenses, no.
Don't worry. James, who comes through out of Roma and Porto?
Yeah, I'm actually lining up quite a big bet on Roma to qualify. I was surprised to see how tight the betting is. I think Porto came through what was effectively a Europa League group, and I expect Roma, despite the off-field distractions, to have a bit too much class for them.
You held it together there, despite the off-field distractions of, I think it's Shirley Bassey singing over to our left. Let's look at Wednesday's ties. Ajax, Real Madrid, this is interesting, and so obviously is Tottenham versus Borussia. First of all, Ajax 13-5 to win that. Real Madrid are 10-11, and it's 14-5 to draw. Mark, you've tipped Real Madrid to win the Champions League for a fourth time, so I guess you're sweetening them here. Yeah,
I think if you want to maybe get a bit more sort of bang for your buck, Real Madrid to win and both teams to score. But Ajax conceded 4 goals to Heerenveen and then 6 to Feyenoord. I mean, they made Van Persie sort of look like the player he was 10 years ago, a couple of weeks ago when I saw them in that game. Defensively, I just don't think they're good enough. They've got some really good attacking players, but I think that Real Madrid will beat them twice.
Okay, and James, what's your view of this one?
I'm actually going to go for a lay of Real in the first leg away from home. I mean, Ajax in the group, they drew twice with Bayern Munich, and they were really well-deserved points there. I think their home record in the Eredivisie, which is admittedly very dodgy form, they've scored 42 goals and conceded 6 in 10 games. So I think they've got enough attacking quality to upset Real, and Ajax or draw double chance in the first leg.
Okay, Mark Langdon loves Tottenham more than anyone on earth, but he's also a fantastically neutral observer when it comes to Tottenham games. So they're 13-10 to beat Borussia.
Max bet.
Yeah, I told you. 19-10 Borussia, 5-2 the draw. What do you think?
I do think that Spurs are fair enough here. I mean, we've been speaking on the Racing sort of football postcasts regularly about the fact that I think that it's been overplayed, the Harry Kane injury. Marco Reus went off injured for Borussia Dortmund last night. They lost to Werder Bremen. They've kept 2 clean sheets in their last 10 Bundesliga games. I think that Tottenham, I mean, the prices there are basically saying that Borussia Dortmund are as good as Tottenham, and I would, or maybe even slightly better, and I would debate that. And I think at home, Heung-min Son always scores against Borussia Dortmund, and I think that Tottenham will win the game. Maybe not the tie, but I think they'll win the first leg.
Tottenham fan Mark Langdon fancies Tottenham. Who does Arsenal fan James Milton fancy?
I'm going to have to emotional hedge on Tottenham as well. No, I think they are a good price, as Mark said. I think, you look how close they are to this blistering pace in the Premier League being set by Liverpool and Man City. They've been absolutely superb to be so close to the top of the Premier League. And, they were up against it in the group stage, but there were fine margins throughout. They conceded late goals at Inter and PSV early on, and they came through it eventually. And, I don't think they've got too much to fear from that game, particularly at home.
Lovely. Let's spin through the other round of 16 games. Tuesday week, Liverpool, Bayern and Lyon, Barcelona. Some really fascinating games there. Liverpool just about odds on to beat Bayern Munich, who are 5-2, and the draw is 5-2 as well. Mark, do you fancy Liverpool?
I fancy them to qualify at 5-6. I think probably my bet of the 8 matches would be Liverpool to qualify. Bayern Munich, very famous team. The history's there. The team's not at the moment, and I think as long as Liverpool play the team rather than the actual shirt, I think they'll qualify. And look at the pace they're setting in the Premier League. Bayern are struggling in the Bundesliga. I think you look at Boateng and Hummels, they're past their best. If Liverpool play it to their standard, they win.
And James, what's your view?
Yeah, I'm just going for goals in this one, really. I think Liverpool probably are odds on. I can just about swerve them. But, as I mentioned earlier, Bayern looking very stale. Mark's mentioned the defenders. All through the team there, there's these familiar names, and they're just not getting any better. They're still class players, but I just think Liverpool's energy, and looking at Bayern's recent games, 8 of their last 12 in all competitions have had over 3.5 goals. So I think that you're looking for goals in this one at Anfield.
Lovely. And Lyon-Barcelona, that's another interesting one. I mean, this round of 16 is absolutely brilliant, Mark, isn't it? The draw couldn't hardly have worked out better for the neutral. There's been so many good games.
This is a fantastic game. I think, you'll know your fate with Lyon in terms of if you back them at 150 or whatever, because they need to win this game. I think they're more than capable of getting a result here. I'll be laying Barcelona at 8-13 or 4-7. They've only won 1 of their last 7 knockout matches away from home, and they've lost 5 of those as well. And we've seen them collapse at Paris. They collapsed in Rome as well. Obviously, Messi can do the damage on his own, but I think this is a hard game. Mentioned that Lyon have done very well in this competition, so I'd be laying Barcelona.
Mark, just give us a clue. If what's been the best version of a Barcelona team in the last 10 years? Which year would it have been, maybe?
The one I liked more than any other was the first Pep Guardiola one.
Okay, but if we say that is 100, what is this current team operating at?
I would say about 80.
It's a fair bit worse.
I think it's the midfield. When Xavi and Iniesta were at their absolute peak, destroying teams. I mean, Rakitic is a fine player, and Artur and players like that. They're good, but they're just not of that standard.
Okay, do you fancy Barcelona, or are you going to side with Mark and oppose them?
No, I'm with Mark on this one. I think Barca have been on the drift a bit in the betting, out to 8-13. I think that's still a lay, really. Mark's made a great case for Lyon. They seem to raise their game in these big fixtures. Took 4 points off Manchester City in the group stage, beat Paris Saint-Germain last time out in Ligue 1, and I think they can really trouble Barca in the first leg, when Barca should get the job done at Camp Nou.
Lovely. The last 2 games take place on Wednesday week, which is just about when I should be able to shut my eyes without seeing flashing lights after spending 2 days here. It's Atletico v Juve even. 6-4 Atletico, 19-10 Juventus, and 21-10 the draw. Mark, I'm on Atletico Madrid, but I'm afraid my kind of optimism has evaporated.
Yeah, I mean, there was a few years ago, Diego Simeone was seen as, the best coach around, or certainly one of them. I don't think he's taken this Atletico team on. Been very disappointed with them this season. They spent a lot of money, and they're not any better than they were before. This game's going to be low scoring. One bookmaker's going 4-5 no on both teams to score, so at least one team failing. That won't be there at kickoff. I mean, this is going to be a dour battle. Couldn't put you off. No goal scorers. Around about 6-1 looks a fair bet to me.
James?
I think the draw is probably the bet for this first leg. I've mentioned I'm keen to be backing Juve at this stage. Just think Atletico's injuries will be too much for them, and Juve know what they're about in these kind of fixtures. Okay,
and finally, Man City go to Schalke. 15-2 Schalke. We were saying what a huge price they are to qualify. 1-3 City to win the game, and it's 4-1 the draw. Do we need to steer clear of City at too short prices, or is this an absolute cakewalk for them?
I think, in Premier League games, they're going off 4s on, aren't they, against, half-decent teams like Everton or whatever. So, I think 2-5 is perfectly acceptable for accumulators. I think the -1 is a fair play. Schalke came for a group with Lokomotiv Moscow and Galatasaray. They're bottom half in the Bundesliga. They were lucky last season to finish where they did in terms of getting into the Champions League. I mean, City have won the lottery with this draw. They'll win easy.
And James, do you agree?
I do. With a one word of warning, I'd say kind of, City have been a bit sloppy in these kind of fixtures. They've both teams to score copped in both their games against Lyon and Hoffenheim in the group stage. So maybe City win and both teams score could be the one.
Thank you, chaps. Just before we go, I'm going to ask you for your best bet out of all these 8 round of 16 matches. Mark?
Yeah, I'm going to go for Liverpool to qualify against Bayern Munich. I think if you just look at the two teams, I think Liverpool are absolutely perfectly set up to destroy Bayern with the pace they've got going forward. And it's just Bayern's reputation that's holding up the price.
We're talking about Liverpool, and Danny, the office Liverpool fan, is not paying attention. Can't believe it. You just had a nap, you mean? And James, what's your bet of the round of 16?
I'm going for Roma to qualify against Porto. I just think Porto came through such a soft group. I don't think that form stacks up at all well, and I think Roma had a great run in this last season. I think they can make the quarterfinals.
Brilliant. Now I'm just going to tap into the guys' expertise very quickly on two massive events coming up. Obviously, the Premier League has got really interesting now, with Liverpool just faltering slightly, City regaining the winning thread. It's roughly, I think, City just about favourites. Liverpool obviously very close behind them in the betting, and 20-1 Tottenham. Mark, you tipped Liverpool at the start. They win you enough to clear them. Oh no, didn't you?
No, I tipped the dual forecast, City-Liverpool.
Oh, all right, fair enough.
So I just wanted Tottenham not to finish in the top two.
Yeah, you're going to be death riding your own team. What will be the 1, 2, 3?
I think it'll be, in terms of value betting, I think Liverpool are the value, so I'll go Liverpool, Man City, Tottenham. I think that Liverpool, sort of this bottle job mentality that's sort of been said about them after the West Ham game is a little bit unfair. I just think that people have got it in their head. It's like confirmation bias. We think Liverpool are going to bottle it. They've dropped 2 points at West Ham. They'll bottle it. Whereas, teams don't win every single game that they play. Manchester City lost to Newcastle last week, so they're not playing particularly well themselves. I'd rather have the... I sound a bit like Alan Shearer here, but I'd rather have the points in the bag, and Liverpool have got that at the moment.
Well, if you want to sound even more like Shearer, so it'll go right down to the wire, probably. And
any 1 from 3.
Yeah. And James, your real specialist subject, as far as Racing Post goes, is cricket. You're a cricket correspondent and a fantastically successful tipster. And obviously we've got the Ashes coming up this summer, starting on August the 1st. England favourites 4-5. I think it's 7-4 the Aussies and 5-1 the draw. Now, when you read those prices out and you see how England have been spanked by the Windies in 2 tests, can they come back, or are they just in a transition period? No Cook anymore, the fast bowler's getting slower and slower. Should we be lumping on the Aussies?
In a word, no. I think home advantage is just so crucial in Test cricket. And, you've seen England come up short on these quick, bouncy pitches in the West Indies, and they've really been outplayed there. But at the same time, Australia are a team kind of rebuilding. They're going to have to reintegrate the pantomime villains, or cheats, for want of a better term, David Warner and Steve Smith. And I think England's bowlers, James Anderson's still bowling as well as ever. Him and Broad will still be a massive threat this summer. Neither side's top order batting is convincing, but I think England will just shade it.
Do you think this is what, we seem to see a trend in Test matches where there's no point buying tickets for the 4th day anymore, is there? Or even making plans after
There's
tea.
no point buying tickets for any day. It's terrible.
But is it just going to be bowlers skittling the batsmen because the batsmen are just used to playing one-day cricket now? It just feels like back in the draw in any test, unless it's a monsoon, is a waste of time now, doesn't it?
I think that's right. I think the natural intent of batsmen now is just to go for it. And England have been so successful in one-day cricket. They're favourites to win the World Cup on home soil this summer as well. That's before the Ashes. And so many of those players who've been successful in the white ball game are in the Test side, and they just can't help themselves. They see a kind of wide ball and they just have to go for it. So and I think back in the draw is probably not advisable as a long-term strategy.
Lovely stuff. Thank you, James. Thank you, Mark. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned a thing or two, and enjoy the rest of Ice. Thanks very much indeed.